I told him this one was gonna be real personal, yo. It's gonna be like that. Journal over music, you dig? I'm trying to right my wrongs, but them same wrongs help me write the songs. I'm trying to right my wrongs, but them same wrongs help me write the song.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Get comfortable.
Oh, wow. Oh, this is, we got cupcakes?
Yeah.
Ah. Oh, with my little picture on? Oh, wow. Would you look at that?
Would you look at that?
Wow.
Masterpiece cupcakes.
Masterpiece cupcakes.
Yes.
With turntables and,
I know.
wow.
That's how we roll.
That's how we roll?
Edition.
That's how Edition roll? Come in here.
Hi. Congratulations.
What's up? What's up? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
How are you?
Look how fly these cupcakes are.
Okay. They are very fly.
They are very fly.
Yes, they are very fly.
I like that.
This is really dope.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. We got some champagne over
I
there.
know.
Oh, what's happening?
What's up? How are you?
I'm good.
You look very well rested considering you just completed an album.
The well restedness is
It's the
it's a
Guyanese
mask.
glow.
It's the Guyanese glow. No, I'm tired, but I'm good though.
Really?
Yeah, I'm tired. Nah.
So talk to me about this whole process. Like you literally completed a masterpiece, the name of your album. Congratulations.
Thank
This is
you,
a
thank
very
you.
big deal.
It's my third independent release.
Okay.
And the first one, Georgetown, was like 8 years ago. And then 3 years ago was Genius Land, and Genius Land was like very more like geared towards like female listeners.
Right.
Especially with like the features on it and stuff.
Right.
I had your girl on there, Tidra Moses.
I just saw her. She said congratulations.
Oh, tell her I said thanks. Like between her, like Raheem Devon, Kevin Costner, like that was very a female oriented project.
Right.
And then this one, when I was doing this one, I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to be more like rappy on this one. Let me get on
Get back to the roots,
get back to the basics. My MC shit bars, and that's what So I wouldn't say like just like a female based project, but it's definitely more soulful. I would say it's deep. I mean, you listen to it, like so the content wise is like going places with it.
Are. You're not playing games on this one.
Not playing games.
I love how the album builds. Like it starts off, very melodic. I get to know you, and then as we go through all the tracks, it really builds. And the first of all, I noticed that almost every track has a collab with an artist. Was that on purpose?
It is on purpose because I guess from being a DJ, I'm used to developing all these relationships with different artists to play their music.
Right.
And then in that process, as I go through and learn about them, I'm like, well, damn, like I want to do something with you, like so let's do something together. And then that ends up being come to the studio, and then we'll knock a song out, 2 songs, and I'm like, yeah, let me just work with whoever I want to work with, and maybe expose other artists that I think are dope that maybe other people don't know about, at least within my own network.
Absolutely.
So like I'll do a record with like a Nova King or a Skrilla that people might not know, and then they'd be like, well, who's that? Who's singing on that? Who's that? And I'm like, well, go check them out. So yeah, I love collaborating with people.
So is it? I mean, probably is an impossible question, but is there one particular song that you just like have on repeat that is your favorite track? I know.
Oh, that's tough because I guess I'm connected to different songs in different ways, like emotionally. But I would say like my favorite record is Right or Wrong.
Okay.
And that's because, I think like as a human being, like we're all trying to learn from the mistakes that we make. Sometimes we do right, sometimes we do wrong. None of us are perfect, and I think that my life is definitely like that. And just from the tempo of that track is produced by Illa the Producer, who actually just did Eminem's Kamikaze and Killshot Machine Gun Kelly diss track. Just the feel, and he's Guyanese, by the way, he's Guyanese too. But the feel of that beat and the emotion behind it, I think that's my favorite record on it.
I think mine is Never Not Fly.
Yeah.
I mean.
You're Never Not Fly.
And neither are you. I mean, you're constantly fly. But I mean, how could you listen to a record called Never Not Fly and not like immediately get in a vibe?
Yeah, I mean,
it definitely has a vibe.
That was and I guess that's the most braggadocious track on there. It's the one that I guess has the least depth to it. It's just me like bragging on some I'm flying.
Maybe that's why I like it.
maybe that's why.
So I noticed that you did do some collabs with some Caribbean artists. Obviously people know that you're Guyanese and all that, but may not realize how much you infuse your culture into your music, especially now on your third album.
Right.
Talk about that progress, and I mean, are you seeing it on your end? Because I am seeing that there is a lot more excitement in terms of collaborations with Caribbean music, Caribbean artists.
Yeah.
You know, like I just had this conversation with Bungie Garland, who just did this collab with Busta. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're seeing that a lot more, where you used to have to beg artists back in the day. You know what I'm saying? To like, oh, yo, there's this, you know, wicked artist, that, you know, Sean Paul or whoever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To try to get them to play those dance hall records, or forget about it, soca, you know, which is just starting to get into the mainstream now, and you know I'm super passionate about that.
I know,
yeah. But what's your vibe in terms of collabs with different genres?
Well, I always said, you know, when I first started, that I wanted to do for Guyana what Wyclef did for Haiti.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like
that's big shoes.
Yeah.
Very big shoes.
Because before the Fugees came out and before the Carnival came out, I don't remember knowing of any Haitian artists.
Right.
You know? So then when he came out mainstream, right?
Yeah.
And he put it on the map in such a big way, and I was like, damn, you know, I don't know any Guyanese artists that are in hip hop. And if they are, they're not saying it. They're not telling anybody, right? So I'm like, well, I want to kind of be that same type of spokesperson, you know, for GT, and that's, in doing that, you know, I find other artists who are West Indian, and then I'm like, okay, let's collaborate together, put our energies together, and then see what we make out of that. That's why I was so excited when I found out Illa was Guyanese. I didn't even know he was Guyanese. And then when I first learned about him, I went to his Instagram page and I saw the guy in the flag. I'm like, oh, nah, we definitely have to work together. Just like, I never heard any of his beats, you know, but just off the fact that he's Guyanese, we have to put that Guyanese energy together and then put that out. So then that's when I would do a record like Boy Meets World with David Lynn, who's Jamaican, who's like, I think is incredible.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
It's a great record.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about the tracks. I told you my favorite. Obviously, I noticed too a lot of the tracks, specifically like I was saying throughout the album, they build. I'm sure you get thrown as a DJ so many tracks coming your way, right?
Yeah.
How do you select? Like, okay, these are the ones that I want for the album, because it's so hard, especially as a DJ, you know what I mean? Not just the artist, where you're exposed to so much music.
Right.
You know, so many melodies, all of that.
It's as simple as this. When I hear it and I connect to it, I know. I guess you could say it's like love. Like, you know, when you know, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so
when you know. That's my track.
you know. So it's like the same thing with, like, when I listen to beats, I know instantly if I'm gonna be able to do something to it or not. You know, so it's not like, well, let me wait till the beat gets 30 seconds in. Let me get a minute in. Like, no, in the first 5, 6, 7, I know it. Right. You know, like it literally, it speaks to me. It speaks to my soul when I hear it. And it speaks to me in different ways. It might give me a different emotion. It might make me a little sad. And then you get a record like Save You, you know, or it might make me hype. You get Right or Wrong, like whatever it is. Like, it just speaks to a different part of my emotion. And then from there, then I create the record from there.
Do you have some that you're like, okay, that, you know, those didn't make this cut, but then for the next one, like, because they have a different vibe? No. Everything that you heard is on the album that you loved.
Yeah.
Because every single track is dope.
I did in the recording process. I did six of those tracks in one night. 6.
Right.
And I had like 3 or 4 producers all in the studio at the same time, all making the beat simultaneously.
Right.
And they would make a beat, and I'm like, no, not that. Give me something else. Oh, yeah, let's do that one. So I would have the features come in, and then they would do their verses, and as they're recording, I'm like listening and vibing and creating my lyrics to the next beat, and it was like a round robin of creation process. And then everything I did made the album.
The final cut.
Yeah, so it's not like, well, I'm sitting on 20 extra records that didn't make it, so let me kind of go through those for the next project. Like, I just don't work that way.
Right.
Like, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, but my creative process is different. Like, it's like I don't pre-write verses. I don't write my verses, period. I do it all in my head, and I do it all in that moment. So a producer would give me a beat, and he'll be like, so did you write to it yet? I'm like, nah, like, when we get to the studio, that's when I'll create it.
You'll vibe on it.
Because whatever happens in that moment, that's how I like my art to be.
Right.
Like, instantaneous.
Right. So do you feel pressure because you are an artist? You are, a DJ, right? Who's transformed now into this audio creator, who is a songwriter, and who is an artist, but is also a business person, right? Coming from that world, it's a beautiful. I feel like it's a beautiful opportunity for you, because you really have a chance to play in so many circles.
Right.
You know the business of music already, so it really helps to cut out a lot of the stuff that some artists who are brand new to the game are really just learning. You know what I mean?
Right.
How to manage your time. Like, every single night can't be turn up, especially when you have 8 a.m. conference calls, like with brands, or you know what I'm saying? Whatever the situation may be, but what's that transformation been for you? Even though you've always technically been an artist slash a DJ, what's that transformation been? For instance, from you like 5 years ago at Live and all these different places where that was primarily what you did, even though we all know that you wrote music on the side.
Right. I think a large part of my following had no idea I was an artist. Right. And somebody close to me, my man Shaq, he said one day, he was like, look at your Instagram. I'm like, look at my own Instagram? He was like, yeah. He said, you're a rapper, right? I said, yeah. He said, what on your page indicates that you're a rapper? What tells anybody, like, I don't see anything about rap.
Right.
I have to go like this 10 times before I see anything about your music. And I was like, damn, you got a good point. And at that point, it was like, okay, I need to kind of shift or adjust the content that I'm putting out there to let people know, like, okay, yes, I'm a DJ. Yes, this is how I establish my following.
Sure.
Yes, I've been on television for it. But what my true passion is this, and now you're about to see that. And that's when I started doing these freestyles, like beats and bars with Epps, like just, doing my own freestyle videos.
Beats and bars was dope.
Yeah.
You gonna bring it back?
I think it's just started the second season. Okay. Yeah. It's going on right now. Yeah. And it was just like, let me start putting out content that makes it plain as day. Like, okay, Fly Guy is not just a DJ.
This is what I do. This is what I am.
Right.
But I mean, that is really being a businessman. You know what I'm saying? Like, so have you adopted that new model as a creator, as an artist? That Jay-Z platinum model. I'm not a businessman. I am a businessman.
Because I've been going back to high school, like I was always like an entrepreneur. Always.
Right.
Like I had a clothing line in 11th grade, my junior year in high school. So I've always been somebody that never liked working for anybody. That's for sure. And always had to be constantly thinking of different ways to brand myself, and different aspects of it, and making people buy into me, as an entity first, and I think a lot of times that's one of the downfalls of music today is that it's so microwave that people aren't buying into the artists anymore.
Right.
They're buying into the songs, like the songs are great or whatever, but then 6 months later they don't care about that artist anymore. Like you might know some records and have no idea what that artist looks like. You wouldn't know them if they walk right past you, but you know the song. And I think when you lose that identity of being an artist, that's when your career is very short-lived. So I said, okay, well, I want people to buy into me as a brand. I want them to say, okay, whatever Fly Guy does, DJ, music, fashion, marketing, like whatever it is, I know it's of quality and of a certain standard, and I'm gonna fuck with that. So
I love it. I love that you took your entrepreneurial skills all the way back to FAMU. I've been seeing you do a lot of really dope collabs with brands. I know Red Bull recently and some other things. Is there like a particular brand that you see? Because now, especially in the entrepreneurial world, Swiss always says it best, like you have to be thinking out of the box and thinking about who you want to collaborate with, who you want to synergize with. Is there like a particular brand that you see, not just the obvious ones, but that really are going there in terms of creating culture and creating a vibe that really fits with your vibe?
I always see myself being on the cover of a Cigar Aficionado magazine. Because I'm real into cigars. And
I know
I
the
think,
editor. Maybe we can make it happen.
That'd be dope. Because I feel like, somebody asked me to describe my style of music, and I told them it's adult contemporary rap music. It's something that the people mid-30s and up can appreciate if you like substance and depth and introspectiveness and and that type of music. And along
adult
with that,
contemporary hip hop rap music.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think because they keep trying to say that hip hop is a young man's game, it's a kid's game, it's whatever.
Definitely.
And I have a hard time accepting that because you look at the other genres like rock and roll or reggae, and you can be 50, 60 years old still doing it. Why is it that hip hop can't?
Yeah.
And I think the moment in time that we're in right now, you're starting to see the elder statesmen in hip hop have success.
Absolutely.
Like the artists that are in their early 40s, mid 40s, late 40s. If you look at Jay-Z, he's 48, 49, and I think that now we've never been in a time where there's this window, there's this lane for adult contemporary rap music. And that's what I do. I feel like if you want to describe it. And within that, I get to say, okay, well, I want to align myself with things that represent class and style and maturity and sophistication. And, being, somebody who was a fan of smoking cigars, every now and then, that's one thing that, kind of, aligns with that.
Do you think, though, that has a lot to do with the fact that people who are of a certain age obviously, if you're 30 plus, you grew up on quote unquote real hip hop, right?
Right.
80s and 90s hip hop is like the breeding ground for an entire culture that has transcended two or three generations now.
Right.
Is it because people I would say of all ages are looking for more substance in their music, and maybe they're not getting it from the younger rappers?
With rap music, you really have to listen, and you have to want to listen. You have to have a desire in the ear to absorb lyrics, and then through the absorbing it, then you can decipher if somebody has something to say or not.
But you as an artist are working, putting in all that work in the studio, creating an entire body of work, a masterpiece, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about the new social and digital world where people are able to kind of pick and choose what they like? Is that a good thing, or?
It's a double-edged sword,
It
really.
is.
Like it's the streaming option has leveled the playing field in a sense that you now have an opportunity to compete with mainstream artists, meaning
Without big budgets,
meaning the general public can now have the access to your material, right?
Absolutely.
So if you can do your due diligence and you can work your grind and establish a large enough following, then fuck a record label, you don't need them.
Right.
But again, it's not absolutely necessary to have that.
Right.
It's not an end all be all, and I'm still putting my music out.
Right.
And I've still been able to develop this DJ career that I can support myself, my daughter, so on, in the midst of, following that dream and following that path.
Well, that is the whole, I would say, benefit and beauty of social media, right? Of all the negative things, it allows you to be able to, not just express yourself and create your art, but put it out there and make yourself accessible as much as you want to be for people to be able to, ingest and take, as much as you give.
Right. And that's and the thing that people who start to get familiar with me as an artist and then they listen to the content, like I'll put a 30-second snippet of a song right on my page of a certain piece of lyric that I know will get people's attention, and then they're like they'll DM me or something, be like, damn, like I didn't know you had this experience or you went through that, and do you have family that follows you? Like what would your mother think if she heard this? I've had all that shit, and I've always been an artist that's willing to be vulnerable and open, like be an open book, whether it's something good or bad, because I think at the end of the day, truth resonates with people beyond anything else. And whatever your truth is, if you're a killer, you're a drug dealer, if you're a pimp, if you're a schoolboy, if whatever your truth is, I think people can identify it and they can spot the bullshit a mile away. And I'm not gonna be trying to have some type of persona that's not true to me in my music, and in turn, in doing that, you get this 100% open, honest, transparent MC. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but it's all honest, it's all real. Right. And so like on a song like Save You, where I'm talking about abortions that, situations I went through,
It's very heavy. Yeah, but sometimes shit is heavy.
Yeah. And that happens.
Yeah.
People go, it's happened to me, it's happened to friends, male friends of mine that have gone through it, female friends that I know who've gone through it, and they hear it and they're like, wow, like I never knew you had that experience. And then that in turn turns to a conversation that we have with each other that can be somewhat therapeutic.
Absolutely.
Because that's the one thing that, at least for me, music has always been therapy for me, because I never really felt like I had people that I could confide in about like painful stuff. Because just from not trusting people or not, information is power. The more somebody knows about you, the more they can use it against you. So I kind of turned to like confiding in beats and confiding in songs. And then you do a song and it's like you've emptied the emotion. And then if somebody hears it, great. And if they don't, well, fuck it. It doesn't matter. You've got it out your system anyway. But people hear it and then they ask me about it, and then it turns to conversations.
But then you have to kind of relive those emotions all over again.
Yes. Yeah. Like the Come Up, track 3, right? Where, I talk about the time I was suicidal, and I went and I spoke on this mental health panel discussion back in June called the Communion Gathering, put together by this girl, Ashley Bianca Jones. And I'm sitting in a room full of strangers. She asked me, she said, I'm having this mental health gathering for young black men. Would you come and speak? And it took me about 2 weeks to agree to it. And she kept asking and asking. I'm like, I'm not about to go sit in a room full of strangers. But she had heard like a clip of some material or something. I guess that's what led her to ask me to come share my story. And I'm sitting there, I said yes, I went to go do it. And I'm sitting there in a room for about 20, 30 people. And I just started talking to them about the time I was feeling suicidal. And then from telling that story, another kid told his. And then a girl told hers. And then somebody else told theirs. And then they started communicating.
Opened up dialogue.
Yeah, so, she had thanked me for, I guess, being brave enough to be that open and honest. Because it was not about me. It was about making those other people feel comfortable enough to start sharing their own story. Like if I could come in there being fly guy or whatever and have this vulnerable moment with them, then they felt like, okay, well, maybe they can do the same.
They could let their guard down too.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's all really music is for me. It's like letting my guard down to let certain emotions out and get it out. And, and I guess it shocks people because they look at my social media and they just think that it's all fun and games. It's all high life. It's all this, and it's like, yeah, it's all well and good, but
social media, right?
Right. But there's a whole nother flip side to life that I think that we all go through that people don't share. They're afraid to share. They're scared, or they're just pretending like they don't go through hardship. Right. I'm like, at least when you listen to my music, you're gonna get pieces of that. It's not all like, I'm not trying to sound like I'm out here like The Weeknd, fucking House of Balloons, and everything's like drama and like but I try to balance everything out. The good with the bad.
For sure.
Now.
I noticed that there's a lot of little, let's say, snippets in terms of your world and your relationship with your family, specifically your mom, your brother, your daughter. Yeah. Is that on purpose in terms of wanting to find a way to include them in the work?
Family is extremely important to me. My father died when I was 15. And he and I were very close. He was like he was like the epitome of, he was dad, right? That's why my first album is him, the album cover is him holding me as a baby. Right. Because I always wanted to pay homage to him. Right. And when he died, my two older brothers were already out of the house. Right. So it was myself and my mother. And she and I got very close. And she, the year after he died, she got breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And I thought, 12th grade, by the time I graduated high school, I thought I was gonna have no parents. Because she went through the chemotherapy and, hair fall out, all that shit, right? And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, my father just died 6 months ago and he never smoked, didn't drink. And how did he get pancreatic cancer and then is dead in a year? And then I look at her, now she's in the hospital. Why is she gonna survive? Like that was my thinking. And it made us get very, very close to where, all of who I am, that ability to be vulnerable and open up comes from my family structure. Mm-hmm. Because then you have my older brother who's an author, among other things. And in his first book, he wrote about my mother going through that process. And he wrote about his own attempt at doing something that could have taken his own life. Right. And I never knew these things. And when I read the book, I was like, oh shit, like you did what? Like this happened, that happened. And this was the time when he was still editor-in-chief of the Source magazine. So he had a very prominent role in the hip hop world. And I'm reading all this, I'm like, damn, he's just like letting it all out there. And that's how I kind of was like, if he can do that, then I can do that. Like I want to be able to be vulnerable like that. I want to be able to share with people like that. But you have
to grow into that person.
Yes.
You have to grow into a person that allows yourself to be vulnerable in front of other people.
Yeah.
That comes from, I would say, like an onion shedding a lot of layers and then finally saying, this is what I'm about. This is the core.
Right.
And I'm okay with this.
Right. Right.
It takes a minute.
It does. And there's you get backlash. Right. I got backlash. In what way? Just from like the abortion stuff, like people, people who hear that and they're like, well, that's fucked up. How could you do that? You have to be willing to say, okay, well, if you're going to talk about this, you got to be able to get ready to accept the praise and the scrutiny.
Absolutely.
You got to be able to do both. And I've gotten both, but it doesn't change who I am. It's not going to change the way that I create, my music, because it's really coming from a 100% honest place, and it always will. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you have to grow into being able to be that vulnerable and be that open with people and say, okay, well, whatever the feedback is, good or bad, I'm gonna accept it. But like Erykah Badu said, I'm an artist, I'm sensitive about my shit.
Very
like that shit is real. Like it's so real, right? Because every artist, I'm not gonna say every artist, but a lot of us, obviously we want the praise. For sure. We want to play something and somebody be like, oh yeah, that's dope. Nobody wants to hear this shit is whack. Right. I'm fortunate enough to have people in my circle that will let me know, like, nah, nah. Son.
Before you put it out there.
Before, right? You know, like change that verse, change. You could do this, that, you know, whatever. So I'm fortunate enough to, and that will always keep my music honest.
Right.
You know, like my brother told me at 16, 15, he was like, yo, there are like 3 things that make up a dope MC. It's like there's having a good voice, there's having lyrical content, and a great delivery. He said if you can combine, if you have those 3 things,
He nailed it.
he was, you know, hip hop journalist,
Yeah.
icon of the year. You know, he's like, if you can nail those 3 things, then you'll be good. Then people are gonna connect to your music.
Absolutely.
Because your voice is gonna captivate them. When they break down the lyrical content, they're gonna say you have something to talk about. And then your stage delivery comes with, your delivery comes with your stage presence and your
Cadence
shows.
is everything.
Yeah.
If you could catch them with that, you know.
I remember engineers, maybe like 10 years ago, used to try to get me to double my verses, like record the verse and then record it again on top of it. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like they're like, yeah, but did they do it this person? I'm like, yeah, but that takes away from the richness of my voice.
Right.
You know, like my voice cuts through tracks fine. I'm not gonna do this because it's the trend, the recording trend that's going on right now. You know, and those are things that you learn as an artist that you grow into when you find your voice. I think that we're always, as human beings first, you know, we're always trying to elevate and evolve. You know, I think we'll always have an opportunity to get better, you know, as a person every day. Like I know that's all I'm trying to do. Like I know at 38, I'm not the same as I was at 28, or I'm not the same I was at 18. But I still know that I have a lot of shortcomings that I'm trying to adjust and mend and you know, make up for past mistakes and everything. But it's like, it's constant. It's an everyday thing. It's a constant thing.
What is the legacy that you want to leave as a person, as an artist, as a DJ, as a composer, as a songwriter?
I guess I would want people to say that I did it the right way, like the grind.
The Frank Sinatra way, my way?
Yeah, exactly. Like I didn't have to like snake anybody. I didn't have to, you know, kiss anybody's ass. Like I just got it straight, like they say, from the mud. Like I got it by working hard at it and trying to. You can't perfect anything, but trying, at least in the attempt to try to perfect something, you know, you get good at it. And I think the legacy that I want to leave behind is that, like you say, quality over everything. You know, doing it the right way. You know, having integrity and being successful. Like you can be, you know, a success. I said it in one of my songs. Like you can have success without having a super ego. Like you don't have to be an asshole just because you've gotten to a certain level in your career or whatever. And I think I pride myself on that before everything else. And I think people here in the city and around the country that I work with, they recognize that. Like they know I'm a respectful individual. You know, I greet everybody the same way. I treat everyone the same way. And I think that carries over into the music I create, into the DJ sets that I do. And it's why I think I've been able to establish the following that I have.
I love it.
I wasn't supposed to be here in the first place. Been an underdog ever since my first race. Now I spaz on tracks, but you don't hear me though. If you want to talk scenario, I'll tell you about my worst case. ES to the PN, I snatched it on the first take. Chased the almighty dollar like a church plate. I fell in love with an anti-socialite, told her that I know it's right ever since the first date. To Georgetown, Guyana, that's my birthplace. And if we talk in New York, that was my first state of mind. They say I rhyme so divine and a nigga's so inclined to show you all the place my verse takes. Listeners, if you listen up, I hit them up. For those who don't like to listen much, I switch it up. Giving glory up to God in a song. And you gonna feel a nigga right or wrong.
So
yeah, that was a special time
really
here, man.
special
That was a special time. Like that's when I'd got a friend of mine that wrote for the Miami New Times that I knew from FAM. When she went to FAM. She was like, well, there's this, because I just came down here and my daughter had just been born.
Okay.
I didn't have a job. And she was like, I was like, yo, is there any way to like perform out here? Because she knew me from rapping at FAM.
Right.
She's like, well, there's not really like, this isn't really the city for that bunch of shows and stuff like that. But there's this one thing that happens on Wednesdays called Miami Live that you should go check that out. I think you'd be good for that. And she took me to, I guess, a rehearsal one day. And I met Michael Mad and BB Lewis, right?
BB Lewis.
And they were in the rehearsal, and Larry Dog was in there like conducting the band, and she was like, well, you know, I wasn't Fly Guy yet because I wasn't DJing yet, right? So she's like, this, you know, it's my boy Rassan. He raps. You should like work with him. And again, they were like, oh, he raps, really? Okay, well let's see what you got. Go up there and there, right? And in that moment, I get into my shit, and I told the band, I said, okay, we'll do this, give me this tempo, let's rock it like this, and then I just blacked out, and they were like, oh shit, can you come tonight? I'm like, yeah, I'll come tonight, yeah. And then that turned into performing there every Wednesday for like 3 months, and then I left. I went on a Rock the Bells tour, and then came back, and then when I came back, it was kind of like that was like the tail end of Miami Live. Okay. So that kind of ended, and I was like, well, here I go again with no avenue, no outlet to do my music. What am I gonna do? Mm-hmm. Homegirl of mine told me, there's an old school party called Classic Sundays you might like. Just if you want to just go hang out. And I was like, well, yeah, old school, sure, yeah, cool. Don't have to pay to get in, cool. I don't have any money, so bet. And I got introduced to Mark Gordon and DJ Selborn, and Ingrid B actually at the time linked me in there, and I was just going there every Sunday just because I love the vibe. She's such a big fan of you too, Ingrid B. Like she's always been such a big fan. Nah, Ingrid is that's like.
I feel like people who are Fly Guy fans go hard for Fly Guy, like they're big fans.
Because they they know I'm a genuine person, I'm a real person. Like I've always been that way. Like I'm the same now as I was back 10 years ago. Right. I'm the same person. And I started going there every Sunday. I'm like, man, I love this shit. I wanna be up there. I wanna DJ. I wanna da. And then they gave me an opportunity to like DJ like the last 30 minutes in the night at the party, which is like 4:30 a.m. to 5.
Which was when it was like rocking. Yeah. It didn't matter that I had to be on the air at 10 a.m. Oh, we were waiting for your set. Oh yeah, we was waiting, man. For your set.
And I just
Classic Sundays.
Legendary.
In Miami.
Legendary.
Same thing with Grass.
Legendary. Yep. And they said, all right, well, you can play the last half hour, whatever. I'm like, cool. And then every Sunday I would show up at 9:00 to help build the stage with my man DJ J Ferg, Johnny Ferg Fresh. And we would build it, because you remember when you walked in and you saw us on stage, that stage wasn't always there. Like we had to build that shit every Sunday. We had to take down the boards, get the hammer, get the drill. When the drill didn't work out, we had to get the screwdriver and put that shit together. Shit took 45 minutes. Wow. And I was there every Sunday doing that shit just to have the opportunity to play in this party because it was so dope. And that's the one thing that a lot of people don't have nowadays is that willingness to pay their dues. Right. Everybody wants the instant gratification. They want to be a millionaire right now. Like they don't want to work for anything. And I'm like, I guess I'm of a different cloth from a different era. Yeah. So it's like, just in doing that, I guess they saw in me, my drive, my ambition, and my willingness to just grind it out. And I apply that same thing to everything. But you've seen it like over the last 8-9 years. Yeah. Nobody nowadays cares about putting together a cohesive body of work. Right. Nobody's concerned about making an album. They just want to put out song. If you do that, fine, that's great. More power to you. Nothing wrong with that. Because I said in the world, everything needs balance. There has to be good and bad, quality versus bullshit, like whatever. But for me, I've always been like, no, I'm a body of work artist. Right. So you're going to get a complete project. Right. And within creating a body of work, one of the things that matters the most is the sequencing of the songs. Right. Because you can have a great, dope project, but if you sequence it wrong, it's not going to flow. It's not going to ride.
But then the worst thing you want is for somebody to listen to and go, I feel like that should
have been the intro. This should have been
that should have been the outro. You don't want that. So like sometimes it has to feel right. Yeah, like everything has to feel like it flows.
Yeah. Because at least for me, the sequencing of Masterpiece took longer than it took to create it. Took long, like I changed the order maybe 8 times.
That's all?
I know, right? But even right. Well, because being a Taurus, I'm stubborn. I'm a creature of habit, and like once I put my mind to something, it's very, very hard to change it, right? But I was like, it doesn't flow right. It doesn't flow. And I'm like, okay, well I know Shine has to start the thing. And I know Boy Meets World has to end it, right? Because I think, and I got that from Jay-Z, like ending a record with a deep introspective song is like the way to go. Because you want to end it on making people think like, damn, that was that was a lot. So that's something I stole from Hov. I've been very blessed to have amazing male guide. Well, not even just culinary, but just guidance in general, just life lessons. Between my dad till I was 15, my stepfather, my brothers, I've been very blessed, very fortunate.
I feel like that's a lot what's missing from a lot of in a lot of black men's lives. You hear about that a lot, but you don't really. It's so true. I was just having this conversation with Teacher, by the way, just talking about how hard black men have it, just in terms of trying to navigate everything once they step out the door.
Right.
Police brutality, all kinds of nonsense with regards to you know dealing with inequality at work, dealing with all of that. But then you know, just in terms of being able to show emotion, you know, and especially as a black man, especially as a rapper.
Let me tell you
it's
something.
Gotta be so hard all the time. You know what I mean? In this world that we live in now, and I feel like that's even more heightened in terms of not looking soft.
That's why I'm an advocate of this organization called Silence the Shame, which is run by my homegirl Shanti Das out in Atlanta.
She's
and
amazing.
Yeah, and you know it's you know it's really about shining the awareness on mental health as an issue in general, but even more specifically, like as a man and as a black man, where they, like you say, they try to tell us we can't show any weakness, we can't be weak. You know, we always got to be strong, hardcore, like
no crying,
just
no
tough
hugging.
guy, right? You can't do any of that. And then what happens is then we start to build up all these things inside of us, and they start to fester, and then we explode and do some crazy shit, and then you wonder why, like, you know, somebody like, you know, God bless the dead, Chris Lighty commit suicide. Like, how can somebody, like, what would make somebody like Chris Lighty responsible for the careers of so many rappers? You kill yourself? Because you maybe have a mental issue, like you're not talking to anybody about something, like, so. Yeah. I'm a big advocate of talking to people if you feel like you're going through, you know, an issue, or you have a mental health breakdown, or you know, it's really serious. Like, it's, and
reaching out, Fly Guy, right? And checking in. Like, sometimes it's just checking in. Like, yo, I haven't touched bases with you in a while. I'm just checking in, making sure everything's good.
Right.
Good.
Right.
Sometimes it's just as much as that, you know.
You know, it kills me. It's funny. Like the last record on Masterpiece, Boy Meets World, I wrote that when I was 24.
Wow. And you just saved it.
I never found a beat that I felt did it justice, did the lyrics justice. And when I was in the studio, because I record at House of Dreams down south of my man DJ Illusion, and this producer came by. Actually, he works with David Lynn, the guy who sings on the chorus. My man Izzy Beats. He came and he's like, well, you know, I want to play you some beats. I'm like, cool, you know, we here, you know, let's work. And when he played the Boy Meets World beat, it was instantaneous, Vanessa. Like, he played it, and I'm like, oh shit, this is Boy Meets World. This is Boy Meets World. Like, I just knew it because I had these rhymes that I wrote at 20. The only two lines of that song that I didn't write at 24 were the very last two, where I say years later he would have himself a daughter. Hoping you remember, you know, because obviously I couldn't write that at 24.
Yeah,
right?
Track 6 and 7.
Track 8.
Track 8.
But when he played the beat, I'm like, this is Boy Meets World. Like, this, I found 14 years later the beat that goes with the mood and the feel of these rhymes. And then I told the singer, I said, listen, because I like to give the artist the creative freedom. Do what you do. Only thing I ask is that somewhere within the chorus you say Boy Meets World. Right. Whatever else you say around that, it's all you. Do your thing. But Boy Meets World needs to be the refrain. And when he got in the booth, because he didn't let me, I didn't want to hear it. Like, he was over there like mumbling and da-da-da. Then he went in the booth and laid it. And I'm like, oh, yes. Like, this is just that shit right here. Like, yes. So that was, and when he finished it, because it was the last song I did. Right. That ended up being the last record on the album. And I was like, yeah, we're ending it here. Because, you know, everybody's trying to do like the 7-track there, the 10, you know, unless you're Drake doing, you know, 29 songs,
tracks,
you know,
dropping it like at 4 a.m. on a morning.
Right. But because you can kind of see the trend now is to be more concise with your body of work. Less is more, right? And me I kept it at 8 because I'm born on May 8th. You turn the 8 on the sideways, it's infinity. So my music is timeless, it'll live forever. You know, that's the whole mentality behind the 8-track thing, right? And when it was like, oh, this is track 8, we're done. It's done. You don't want to play some other beats? No. I'm cool. We're finished. So
did you ever feel like, okay, well, something came along later and you're like, yo, we should switch it out? No. You just knew, like, this is the body of work.
This is it. I don't allow myself to even get into that headspace where, well, let me just see what else you got. No.
That's mad discipline. Straight up.
I have to be. You know, it's like when you feel it's complete.
Yeah.
It's like writing a term paper. Like you physically could write forever on a top. You keep writing, but there has to be a point where you. And this is my broadcast, my journalism, FAMU shit coming out. But it's like, you know, there's an introduction, there's the body, then there's the denouement, or which they call the falling action, and then there's the end. You know, it's my little brainiac shit. You know, and then,
I don't even remember that shit.
and then it's completed. So it's like you have to be able to tell yourself, you're done. Yeah. People are asking, they be like, "Yo, how you doing like 2 and 3 gigs in one day, and when do you have time to sleep?" And I'm like, "Well, I'll get to sleep whenever I get there, but." You're not about to outwork me though.
No.
You know, like I'm about to go do this brunch. Then I'm gonna go do a set, you know, over here at this club and this day party. And then I'm about to go do this set later on tonight at 2 a.m. And then, you know, I'll get home at 6 a.m. I'll go to sleep. I'll get up at 11. I'll go hit the gym. And then I start the process all over again. Oh, and then in between all of that, I'm gonna go to the studio for 3 hours and knock out this album. I'm gonna do that. Like, you're not about to, like, people don't have that drive, that fire under them anymore.
I must have a cupcake, and I'm not gonna eat your face. So let's do the turntables.
Do the turntables. There's one right there.
Really dope. But the turntables looks like red velvet. Because it's different flavors, right?
I guess.
Right.
I guess. Why, are you allergic to red velvet?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. You know, I can eat my own face. That's cool.
Eat your face?
You know. Did you get a shot? Did you get a shot of that? Get a shot of that.
We didn't even have a chance to pop the bubbly. We should have.
Oh no! What you mean? We got to.
We got to.
We got to.
Well, listen. Well, cheers.
Well, cheers with the cupcake,
yes!
and then cheers with the champagne.
Yeah, man. This is a big deal.